So, very warm welcome to our session today. And our topic today is the seeds and the fruits of patience. And this is a subject that I think is, we've probably done it a few times, but I don't seem to remember having covered this recently. And I think that it's always something that's important in the sense of when you don't have it, that's when you notice. And so this gives me the idea that maybe we are actually patient quite a lot of the time without realizing it. But it's when we don't have it that it makes a difference to how we feel and how we interact and the quality of our connection with each other. And so patience, I think, is one of those things where the most, in a sense, the thing that really happens when we are connected to ourselves. And in fact, it can only happen when we're connected to ourselves and we're connected to the others or to the situation or what's going on. Because if we are caught up in something that we're trying to control or pushing to happen, hurrying up in some way, then patience is a distant dream. um, and so, anyway, it's a very interesting subject. And I was thinking, just to take a moment for each one of us to think back to a recent moment where you felt like you were being patient. You had been patient in that particular situation with the person, maybe with yourself. No, but just think back to a recent moment, maybe with children or with animals or with older people, with anyone that you have identified that, yes, actually, I did exercise patience at that time. No. So sometimes it might be when you're trying to explain something to someone, and the person takes a bit of time to understand it, for example. Maybe the same thing happens with the self, is that we want to understand everything instantly. And so maybe it was a moment of being patient with the self. Just think back to a moment recently. So just as that comes up in your mind, what was it that was going on inside you? What kind of thoughts were you thinking? Feelings were you feeling as you were being patient? Was it quite easy and natural, or was it a bit of a battle with conflicting actions and expressions, quality of expression that you wouldn't call patience, but you chose patience. You chose the characteristics of what you then call patience. So what was going on for you, in that moment?
Can I share?
Please, yes, Marco.
Well, last night, my daughter, who's 13, had 4 days off. She had the weekend and 2 days, and she had a lot of homework. And over the past 4 days, she said she was making progress. She was doing well. And so yesterday afternoon, I decided to check in with her, and I realized that there was still a lot of homework to do. And so And so I started working together with her. So it took about 4 hours, and I noticed that at points I had you know, the in me, I sort of wanted to express some irritation, that she should have told me earlier, or that she should have been more straightforward or something. But
Mm.
on the other hand, I don't know. I had the feeling that there was something more important than the homework.
Mm.
So that it would have been counterproductive for me to be irritated, and so I was very patient and very
Mm.
calm and caring, and I feel like I invested in our relationship, which was more important than the homework.
Mm.
So that's my little recollection.
That's very beautiful. Thank you, Marco, for sharing that. That has a lot of wealth of experience in that. Those are the moments of, where you connect the quality with your experience, and as you describe, it's really an investment, and this is the way people learn how to trust that they can say things. No, so I think that's very beautiful. Anyone else? No, where if you want to
One
share
thing.
the story, please do. Otherwise, whatever it was that you felt. Yes, please, Sandra.
Yes. I was thinking about a patient, Marco, in fact, said something very nice because he was investing his time in his relationship with his girl. Excellent, because this is the point. Sometimes we are looking forward the rules or the things that we became impatient or frustrated because, for example, the bus or something is not correct, wasn't done well, and we are very angry. But this is something that we, in general, humans, we tend to do, to think about the bad thing, to wait, to spend our time, and it's something that is changing our mind. We became very angry, but we should try to see the other part of the things, the positive things, to become more patient and to think, okay, this is now, but it can happen, or it's not a problem. Okay, it's most important the rulers or rulers, I don't know how is you say, the law,
Mm.
than the person and the humanity. This is my point.
Mm.
And you reflecting, you will be patient.
Yes, yes, thank you. So, yes, reflecting on the bigger picture. No, so good. Mm. Anyone else like to share something on what it is for you, what you're doing as you're being patient, naturally or with encouragement? So there were a few things that came to my mind, and just kind of looking back at at practical experience, um, is one of the things that in fact I'm doing when I'm being patient is that I've stopped waiting, in a sense that I'm not holding on to the idea that um, something should happen when I decide that it should happen. No. And so this sense of a kind of uh, freedom, actually, because when I want something to happen, I want I don't know, the person to arrive on time, or I want um, that government systems, or our systems should hurry up and do things in a different way. But and that's where it gets difficult, because I'm waiting, and the energy of waiting is very restless, isn't it? So it's either very restless, or it's a kind of what did they call it, where you've given up, in a sense, resigned, to be resigned. And so you wait because God, can't do anything else. So that kind of thing. And so when I stop waiting, then it's actually easier to be patient, because I'm being patient without kind of pushing and shoving myself. Um, and another thing is what helps, brings patience a lot, so much more easily with love, I think, is understanding. And I think it was mentioned earlier, is that, to really understand something more about either the person or what's going on, or even the self. Sometimes we don't realize a certain key aspect about ourselves. And so we get impatient with ourselves, wanting us to be different, or wanting us to not have some habit or another, or wanting us to be like something, and we're just not doing it. We're not getting it, or not doing it fast enough. Sometimes we can see the change in ourselves, and that's great and that's beautiful. Other times it's, it happens in a way we don't expect it, and so we don't see it. And so it's almost like it hasn't happened for us, but actually it's happening. And so somehow understanding, bringing that sense of getting the bigger picture. And it's, I mean, often it happens, isn't it, that there are stories where someone's, causing some problems, and then people realize this person's story, and then all the things that would normally have irritated and bothered and angered somehow don't do that anymore, because there's empathy and there's love. And there's this story which you might have heard before, of the man who was traveling in the train with his 3 children, and these children were all under the age of 7, and so they were running up and down the carriage, and he was kind of a little bit lost in his world, and so the people in the carriage started getting irritated and, mumbling to each other. But and then eventually one person said to him, "Sir, can't you look after your children? They're really making a huge racket, and causing a lot of disturbance." And he kind of snapped out of his dream, in a sense, and said, "Oh yeah, we're just coming back from the hospital, where their mother's very sick, and so sorry, I didn't realize, or whatever." And so that completely changed that piece of information somehow, to understand what is the situation of this person. And then people in that whole carriage began to play with the children and entertain them, and, look after them, give them some attention and love, and it completely changed the whole vibe from this irritation and impatience to love, love and care. And so that was the power of understanding, and even without, let's say, not even understanding, just information, you know. And so understanding what that man must be going through, and so therefore empathy. And where there's empathy, there's only patience. I don't think it's possible to have empathy and impatience together at the same time. um, and then I'm just wondering, Licia, did you want to say something? Oh, I see your mic is on, but I don't know if you mean it to be on and you'd like to say.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to be on.
Okay. But would you like to say something? Please do, or later on, or whatever.
Um, no, no, not particularly. I'm just like listening to you really.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Lucy.
Patience and care.
Okay. So basically, another thing that I find helps me to be patient is when I choose to be patient. You know, when I know and I've seen that certain situations and certain um, people, or the attitudes, or the way of being of certain people, is something that tends to press my buttons, or if something that sometimes takes a long time and other times doesn't take a long time, and then it takes a long time, can sometimes, be unexpected, and it's as if it's, not fulfilled its promise in some way. And so the thing that I find is helpful is to actually make a very conscious choice, you know, to practice patience in certain specific situations that I know usually kind of push me onto the edge, or I let myself get there. And so when I know that, okay, it's going to take a while, it's going to take a long time, and if it doesn't take a long time, then that's something extra. And so neither expecting it to take a long time nor expecting it not to take a long time. And so it's like being free again here from the expectations, but in a sense choosing that, making it a very conscious choice. Because if I know that I'm going to meet a certain person, or the interaction with a certain person tends to, when they behave in a certain way, when they say certain words, even sometimes someone just has to say one word, or a phrase, and that's enough to, put the red flag up. Um, and and so it's very interesting to decide, that going to um, I'm not going to worry about it, and I'm not going to, in a sense, what am I going to do? I'm going to use the qualities of patience. So it's um, it's very much about seeing again, answering that question for the self. What is it that I'm doing when I'm being patient? No. And so just remembering that means that I can be more specific when I say, okay, I want to be more patient with this particular person, or I want to be more patient with in that situation. Then I know what I mean. So whether it means um, understanding, or letting go of expectations, or whatever it is that you're doing, you know, you choose to invest, for example, as Marco was saying, and you choose to see the bigger picture. And I find that the practice of staying connected with the self, so the practice of, very simply, the awareness of the self as the spiritual being, is very conducive to actually being able to be patient. Because in a sense, in that moment, you're connected with what's truly important for a much longer period of time and beyond time. And it's easier to see the situation or the person as an actor, and yourself as an actor, as a scene in the drama. And so being able to see it as a theater show actually gives a lot of patience, because you know that, you know, it's a story, it's a game. and and the amazing thing is that I am writing my script as I go along. You've probably heard about this idea, but it's really incredible. Just this thought that I am writing my script as I go along. And so these are a few things that I thought that helps me to be just that little bit more patient, and I think it's just that little bit of sowing of the seeds that brings a lot of fruit, and from Marco's story, I can see how, in a sense, it was a moment of sowing seeds, some very, very powerful seeds that can only bear very, very powerful, nourishing fruit, which might take some time, or it might be, or less time. But it's that kind of an investment means to sow seeds, and and for anyone who's a gardener, which I haven't had much experience in, but it's fascinating from what little I have. So being a gardener, or a farmer, maybe someone has a little, vegetable patch or maybe a field, is that when you sow the seeds, then you know that it's going to take a certain amount of time, and again, it's the question of, well, that it's going to take a certain amount of time, so you have something quite specific. But at the same time, if there's not the flexibility that, okay, it could be a before, it could be after, there's lots of factors, and so in a sense you can let go of the fixed idea. And so I think patience is very much helped with that kind of a clarity and flexibility together. So being flexible, but with that firm structure, because otherwise just flexibility turns into that, where sometimes it's used also in Italian, where you say pazienza, which is also, and not always, but sometimes it's used as a thing, well, just let it go, in a sense that um, on one side it's, yes, a good thing to just let it go, but is it that thing that I need to let go of, or do I need to make that thing more precise and I need to let go of something else? So it's very interesting to, as a observation for the self, in this case. So I think that what it might be quite nice at this point, if anyone has something to add, please do. Most welcome. Love to hear what you have to write or say. And there is a very beautiful text from Dadi Janki on patience. And actually, speaking about Dadi Janki, I just heard today that in India, the government of India just published a stamp, a postage stamp with Dadi's picture on it. And so it's, quite an interesting event, I think. And so that's it's a 5 rupee stamp. So I think that's a few cents, but anyway, the point is that it's like, I guess, an emblem of someone who has left, a mark. So anyway, this is what she has to say about patience. The most important virtue needed for self-transformation is patience. Without patience, you will lose hope in the transformation process. As you travel the path, you sometimes run into rough spots. where the foot slips and you find yourself suddenly not on the path. And there are wrong thoughts or words or behavior. So, wrong in the sense that which distracts or takes you down the wrong path, brings some sort of a sorrow or suffering. Mm. Patience makes you cool and calm. It makes the journey possible. The process of self realization is not a 10-meter or a 100-meter dash. No. It is the 150-mile run. You have to learn how to pace yourself. You can't take help from God until there is patience of this kind. Where there is patience, there is peace. So where there is patience, there is peace. Where there is peace, there is love. And this is a whole new experience of what it means to be human. You know? So where there is patience, peace, love, and true humanity. You know? Because within humanity there is understanding, empathy, you know, listening, caring, so many things. So maybe we can have a meditation now on really being able to be in that space, you know, where we're generating the energy, the powerful energy of, of actually the qualities and in a sense, the source of us being able to be patient, you know. And sometimes you think, well, it's easy to be patient with people who you love, or who you, in a sense, we decide that yes, this person is worth being patient about, you know. Whereas maybe sometimes for other people, we may say, well, it's not worth using up or making the effort, you know, bothering to actually be patient with another person, you know. And so it's interesting to observe the self and to see all these dynamics, because it just helps to get to know how we work. And that way we can choose, we can change if we think that, oh no, I don't like that very much actually, because that is expressing a kind of prejudice, you know? And so um, I don't want to live with prejudices, because they just give me a very one-sided vision of the world, and I want an open mind, you know. And so we're not blaming ourselves, or we're not beating ourselves for having a certain prejudice, but we're looking at it and we're choosing, you know. And maybe we're understanding, where did that come from, you know. That's not what I believe in now, but somehow I still have that prejudice. How come? And then maybe I realized that though that was the education that I received, or that was the beliefs that were in my family or with my friends, or that's what was taught in school. And it could be that not directly, but in some way, some prejudice is connected, and they belong to the past. We don't actually, they're not part of us, but sometimes we act out of them as if they are part of us. And so to understand, to recognize them, you know, is means that we can, you know, add the capacity of being patient even in those particular contexts or people, you know. So it's an ongoing journey, you know, as Dadi Janki says, it's not a, you know, overnight fix. And I think probably most of us, or all of us, have been, you know, on the journey of developing patience, and some maybe have managed very well, and in most areas, and maybe one or two areas still need working on. And for others, it can be a battle. You know? And so sometimes, seeing patients as something that's making me uncomfortable, because to be patient means to kind of, tighten up and wait till it's over, which is a poor version of patience. I mean, it still is being, in a sense, the external look of being patient, you know. But when when there's that sense of um, really allowing, having chosen it, an interesting thing actually, just before we come into the meditation, was one thing that reduces my capacity to be patient is when I find myself in a hurry, that somehow the result of something is much more important than how I get there, and so the hurry factor can be very, very um, deceiving, deceptive, and recently I experienced where, in being in a meeting where there was these documents that had been distributed, you know, and basically, it was kind of expected that people had read those documents, or at least in part, and to come to the meeting prepared, basically. And one of the people hadn't read it, and another one from the meeting started to, in a sense, not exactly, in a little bit of a raised voice, to tell them that they should have read it, because otherwise it's going to take a long, long time for everyone to read it all together, you know. And the person then said, but I didn't read it because I had technical issues with my devices. And and somehow that information was very helpful for the majority to feel, okay, no problem, we'll talk about the main things that are in this document. But for the person who was in a hurry, it was still a problem, no? Because for them, the most important thing was that they had to get this over and done with as quickly as possible, and get out of here, because the mind was already in that other thing, And so to be in a hurry is a very unpleasant state. If you're with someone who's in a hurry, it's never a pleasant experience, And so anyway, that was one thing that came to my mind, that makes it more difficult to be patient. So it's useful just to check and see what are some of the things that help and hinder you, and they're probably different ones. But okay, so let's have our meditation now, and find that comfortable position, and take a few deep breaths and feel the energy in your body relaxing. If there is any tightness in any of the muscles, just consciously relax, let go. Remembering that there's no need to hold on. For the next few minutes, I can completely let go. The body is calm and comfortable, and I can turn my attention inwards, focusing on who I am, a beautiful being of light, living being, thinking, feeling, emanating energy just by my being. And my most natural way of being is peaceful, to be peaceful and loveful, to be blissful, powerful. This is the radiance that naturally comes when I'm being who I am. It doesn't take much to come back to being myself, my true self, that cool, peaceful, calming energy of peace, of being constant and stable. And it is from peace combined with love that patience can emerge. The cool, firm hand that reminds me when to wait and when to move, when to push hard and when to let go. It is the energy of patience that keeps me respecting someone, no matter what they think, believe, or do. For a few moments, I enjoy being in this space as I prepare myself for the next time I need to use or I choose to use the energy of patience. What one thing do I need to think of that will be like a key to the store of patience? One image, one thought, one feeling that I connect with being the energy of patience. from this space inside, I can also feel the presence of the Supreme Energy, like a generator with whom I can connect my mind and draw the current that illuminates my ability to be patient. Having a big heart that includes everyone. This connection with the Supreme is a very sweet and subtle connection. Whichever quality or virtue or power I would like to draw from the source, I can do. When I reflect, it is as if the capacity of my mind grows and I can absorb the energy behind each virtue. And so I take another deep breath as I prepare myself to act through my physical senses, to interact and to continue the tasks of the day. I gently become aware of my physical surroundings. So I'd like to invite anyone who wishes to share either some experience during the meditation or any thoughts about this subject. And then if not, well, we can end here, and wish to thank you all for being present and for sharing this moment together.
Very good.